Hey guys, I'm Connor Erikstad. I am here with Matthew Burns and Benjamin Gall, both my partner in crime at Blacksite Studios. We are about to walk you through a round of Violent Dark. Don't worry, we're going to have text on the screen, and at the end, we're going to have some slides. So, if you don't want to hear us talk, you can just skip to that and do your reading. But, if you like seeing our beautiful faces, you can watch that too. So, the first thing you're going to want to be doing when setting up for a game is setting up for the game. Pretty obvious there. First thing, kind of 5-step process. You're going to choose a threat, choose a mission to play, choose a plan B. Matt will get to that in a second. Choose your crew and set up the table. So, Matt, I don't know if you want to expand a little bit on those for some people.
Sure. So the first thing you have to do is choose your threat. In the core game of Violent Dark, we have the Xeno, which represents an alien species that's starting to threaten the galaxy. And each threat will have its own selection of missions that kind of cater to their play style and their special rules. So once you're choosing your threat and you've chosen your mission, then you get to choose a plan B, which is kind of like a subplot or a morale type booster. So if maybe the Xeno are crushing you, you might be able to at least do something in a blaze of glory before you are snuffed out in the dark. Nice. After that, you'll have to choose your crew, and this is done as a random draw. So this sort of represents the computer deciding who is most beneficial for the threat at hand, and you will flip them, and then you'll have to choose an offensive or defensive posture, and this will vary their traits and their equipment. And
it's worth noting here, the crew cards that come are large format cards. These are prototypes. Are the large format cards that have their defensive and offensive postures on opposite sides. So it's quite easy to just shuffle through, pick from the top, and then say, oh, I have the engineer. Do I want to be offensive or defensive for that one?
Yeah. Makes it.
And over the course of a game, it's possible to flip between the two also. So you make a choice in the beginning, but there are some situations that'll change which posture you are in.
Yep.
And then lastly, we have table setup. So as you can see here, we have a table set up on a 2x2 mat with just a few rooms on it. But as you and your friends are getting ready to play, you can choose to make it a simpler setup or more complex setup. It could be something industrial like this, like with a ship's interior or a planetary facility, or you could do something more organic, like a frontier alien world's surface. Really, the options are up to you, and the rules will kind of help you work your way through how to do those different things.
All right, so once you set up, it's time to actually get into the game. So this is where the rounds officially start. Ben, you're going to take it up first with the ISS phase.
Yeah. The ISS phase is the first phase of the round, and it's to sort of represent the ship's computer thinking and plotting and stuff like that. The first part of that phase is the interior scan, where you add PTTs or potential threat tokens, if none are on the table already. The second part of that is the emergency wake-up protocol, where the computer may decide to thaw out extra crew members if any died in the previous turn. Each crew can be replaced once per mission, so you can have one captain, one lieutenant, one stowaway, etc.
And kind of important for the interior scan when you're adding the PTTs, these potential threat tokens. The way the game works is whether you're playing with an AI threat or there is a player threat, there will always be PTTs on the table, so there will always be an opportunity for the threats to sort of replenish or show up again, or kind of hassle the crew. And the emergency wake-up protocols. So if a crew member has died in the previous turn, then you'll get to randomly select a new one. You'll get to pick a posture. They'll pop up in the cryo sleep chamber, just like the other characters did. Then you'll be able to jump right back in. So even if somebody dies, you'll have a chance to keep playing. You won't be out right away.
Plenty of crew to go around.
PTTs, we should say, these potential threat tokens. They're potential threats, right?
Yeah.
We'll get to that, I guess, in the threat phase on why they're potential threats. So after the computer has gone, after the ISS phase, we get to the threat phase. The first step in the threat phase is to increase dread. This is a value overarching kind of as the story's going on. It's increasing. It's getting worse and worse for your crew members in it, right? So at the beginning of this, you increase the dread, and Matt will explain a little bit about what you can do with that dread afterwards. You roll for potential threat tokens, starting at the closest first. That can do a few things based on the results. Potentially, based on their placement, you'll end up having to reveal the threat tokens. Sometimes if they're in the same sector, they're in well lit within 3 inches of a crew. There's a few ways that these can be revealed. Again, get to in a second what that may mean. And then roll for instincts. So that is once you have a threat like Xeno on the board, what its instinct is going to be. Matt, you want to talk us a bit about Dread and these threat tokens and threats?
Sure. So Dread is a resource that will accumulate and get spent over the course of the game, whether you're using an AI threat or a player threat. So the AI threat will lay out specific conditions in which if there's Dread available, it will get spent to do X, like flipping a crew member's posture when they get a critical failure on a die roll, adding additional damage on a critical. And when there's a player threat, they have even more options. They can do things like close bulkhead doors or open bulkhead doors. And even recently in a game that we just played, the threat player, me, was able to spend 2 dread and cut Ben's captain in half as the door slid down on the poor captain as she was trying to make her way through the belly of the corporate ship. Yeah. And the first thing I'm gonna do is spend my my 2 dread, and that bulkhead door, the wiring starts to fizz, crackle, and pop, and then the like 2-ton door just slides down onto the captain.
That's pretty messed
so
up.
Good.
I'm still salty about that too.
Shouldn't have been in the door.
Classic moment.
Yeah.
And it'll let you do things like, as the player threat, you can, instead of rolling for the instinct, which we'll get to, you can make a choice of what you want them to do. So you get a lot more control over what the threat does, and you have a little bit more control over the environment. Once we're done increasing dread, then we'll roll for potential threat tokens. So these sort of represent the possible places that the computer's picking up anomalies, like things moving under the vents or through the vents, under the floors, things lurking in the darkness. And you'll roll to see what's happening with them. They could move closer, they could disappear, or they could potentially be a threat. And then we'll move into the reveal threats. So for each of the PTTs that's going to be revealed, and there's some different things that will happen to be the catalyst for that to occur. If the PTTs wander into a well-lit area, if they get close to crew, or there's certain items that players can use, like glow rods, toss them into dark areas and reveal the threat tokens. So then you'll roll to see what happens to them, and it could be anything from it was a glitch in the computer, nothing's actually there, to being a verified threat, and the whatever it is that you're playing will show up on the table and replace that token.
So these potential threats is the ISS computer has pinged it to you and is alerting you in some fashion. And the computer could be faulty. It could be just straight up wrong. It could be tricking you for some reason. It could be doing a lot of different things. So all you know is the computer has, hey, there's something up here that shouldn't be here. And you don't know if it's a Xeno or what. And that's what you're saying, right? The potential threats can move around, and then once revealed, that's when they become that thing and are. That's why you have more than one on the board at a time, and why they can move around, and why you don't just start with an alien in this area or something like that.
And it really creates that level of suspense as the players, whether you're playing against a player threat or it's an AI, you're not sure exactly where it's going to come from or where it's going to be. So you can sort of play around what's detected, these potential threats, but you don't know exactly when or where the threat will show up. The Xeno is going to pop out of a hatch behind you or drop down from the ceiling.
As they do.
But as they often do.
Yeah.
And then once they're on the table, then we'll roll to see what they do. And all threats, Xeno, Rogue Synthetics, Space Pirates, whatever they are, will have two different types of instincts. They'll have an unengaged instinct table, and they also have an engaged instinct table. So when a threat is not in contact with a crew member, then you roll on the unengaged, and usually this is moving towards an objective or moving towards a target. And the engaged instinct is for when the threat is already in contact with the crew model, and those are usually when they're going to use their various types of attacks and tricky abilities. And that's when you'll use the threat's combat values, just like the crew, and we'll get into that later. But this is also the phase in which they will attack and probably murder a couple of your crew members.
Yes. After this video, there's going to be one that is detailing a little combat interaction where not only the threat is going to take some swipes at our crew members, but we may get the chance to fight back. So stay tuned for that. Check out this YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. Like that button or whatever they say.
Smash that bell.
Smash that bell. Ding.
Smash
We'll
bell.
put the little graphic right here. I'm not gonna do that.
Speaking of the crew, though.
Yes. Speaking of the crew fighting back.
The next part of a round is the crew phase, when, as Colin said, you can finally fight back, perform your actions, and do things like that. The first aspect of that phase, crew can activate in any order, so there's not a set order. It's not like the captain has to go first or anything like that. Even though the captain should always go first. Each crew can take either 2 quick actions or 1 quick and 1 long action, and Matt will elaborate on a few examples of those here in a minute. And actions can be taken in any order, so pretty simple. It's time to get out of the cryo chamber and kind of complete the missions and tasks that the ISS has set for you, or escape if you need to get out of the ship.
Yeah.
Hopefully. All these
hopefully.
are hopefullys.
That's the plan.
So just like Ben was saying, crew can activate in any order, so you get to sort of look at the situation that's unfolding on the table, and then you can decide who's going to do what to support, help. A big thing in this game is stress, so managing the stress that's on crew is something that's really important. And how you choose to activate with abilities or items may be able to help you with that. And that order can change from turn to turn. So each turn, you get to choose the order in which they activate. It's not like a set thing at the beginning of the game. And each crew member can take 2 quick actions, or 1 quick and 1 long action. You can do those in any order that you want. And some things that your crew can do, pretty classic skirmish game things. You can move. You can encourage and focus to give people better chances of success with things they might do on their turn. You can attack, you can investigate, you can pull away from the threats. You can take a moment to sort of try and clear your head and recover some of the stress, and using scenario-specific actions as well. So you might have to collect a sample from a dead Xeno and then have to deposit it successfully in the med bay. So there's a list of long and quick actions in the core game, and then some of the scenarios themselves might have some specific things that your crew can do in there as well.
Cool. Well, that's the end of the round. So again, if you want like a real quick synopsis, ISS phase, threat phase, crew phase, and here is an image of all of those things without us talking over it. That's where I'm going to put the image.
Nice.
Thanks for hanging in with us. Like we said earlier, we're going to be going through a combat round on the next one. Actually, a practical example to maybe give you a feel of how that might go down. So, like Ben said earlier, smash that bell and wait for that. Or if you're watching this, like, I don't know, a week after this one comes out, it'll already be there. You can just hit next in the playlist.
Yeah.
Anyways, thanks for being here, Matt. Thanks for writing such an awesome game. And thanks for helping explain it a little bit to these people in this backroom event project.
Of course. I hope everybody has a great night. Thanks for joining us. And always remember, you can hop into the the Discord and the Facebook groups if you have any questions about Violent Dark or any of the other awesome games at Blacksite Studio.
The links for those will be down below.
Awesome. Thanks.